This way good, so we'll lump the others all together into one. So Nelson and Oakes get their separate ones. Uchtdorf, he talked about the rising generation and made the major faux pas saying he has a message from Jesus and then clarified it after. Mormons have a horrible tendency of putting a period where there is no period to put. And in so doing, he has led Mormons to believe that he is actually in communication with Jesus. And that's very dangerous. He having trouble reading in the dark here. He turns the sacrament into a keeping of your temple covenant symbolism. I've gone over how that actually comes from the Egyptians, from the stories of Osiris, with the scattering and gathering of Israel and the latter days man like Moses. He talks about agency and the false dichotomy. There's a lot of fallacies thrown out. He talks about the restored gospel, as if the gospel was destroyed with the deaths of Jesus and the apostles. It's still contained in the Bible. How could it be destroyed? So it's weird that they're doing that, calling it the restored gospel rather than the restored church. There's a change that's taken place. Let's see. Oh yeah, the new For Strength of Youth pamphlet. You can now watch R-rated movies. You can now wear multiple body piercings. You can now tattoo your bodies. You can now drink beer. You can now smoke and drink. It's okay now, because they're not going to tell you how to live your lives. Despite Tracy Browning saying she doesn't smoke and drink because of her testimony. But, that was weird. And the fallacy argument of what would Jesus do? He didn't exist. And so if you can't find it in the text of a specific example, you can't use it as an argument. So you can help an ox in the mire on the Sabbath, which, again, you can do whatever you want on the Sabbath now. It's a-okay. Except for Tracy Browning, who refuses to. And of course, they're not telling you about the Babylonian origins of the Sabbath day versus the actual origins from the Egyptian culture, and why it's not listed in the Egyptian commandments, which are not actually commandments, they're affirmations. But you guys can watch my videos to understand those. Tracy Browning talked about correcting vision. I did that for you with my 5 views video series. It's on the homepage. Watch all of them for church history. When you put on different glasses of different religions, different views, what Joseph Smith wrote is interpreted differently. And that's why I needed to warn you guys that you needed the right interpretation from Joseph Smith, not from the church, not from Christianity, not from the Jews, not from the world. Because otherwise you're going to get screwed up on your interpretation, as they're perpetuating the lies in this church. She focuses on what Nelson has lied to her about. The covenant path. And that Nelson's responsible for her idolatry practices. She made the mistake of assuming that the laws of Moses were symbolic of Jesus. Deuteronomy 18:15-18 is the prophecy of the man like Moses. And it's confirmed that there's supposed to be an Exodus involved. So go through your Gospels. Where's the Exodus? Led by Jesus, the man like Moses. Yeah, you're not going to find it. There is no Exodus. Jesus is not the guy. He's not a guy. He's a fictional character. Turned real by Constantine. Turned into Pinocchio by Constantine. And so Joseph Smith tells us that our Christ is the man like Moses, not Jesus. I've gone over that with you at the 5 views. And so the Exodus, well, you missed it. It was in 2020 when we were supposed to have it. And then Renlund, piloting planes, you got to stay in your lane. Don't get out of your lane. And what's bizarre is that he used section 43 that says that everybody must follow only Joseph Smith, not his 12 apostles, not his counselors, only Joseph Smith. So, section 43 is about only listening to the president of the church. Not the 12 apostles, not the counselors, only the president. And when the president dies or is removed, only God's appointed way is to be the replacement. Brigham Young is not the replacement. Section 107, verse 22 was the appointed way for replacement. Brigham Young did not follow that. Nobody followed it. And so as a result, now what has to happen is Numbers chapter 12, verse 6, which was the manner in which Joseph Smith became the president in the first place. That God, through visions and dreams, appoints his president. And so what Renlund was talking about was the man like Moses. He was talking about the prophecy in Deuteronomy 18:15-18. And that Mormons are not supposed to listen to him, which is kind of hilarious, or any of the prophets from Brigham Young, because he is not authorized. He is not appointed of God. And so Mormons are supposed to wait for the man like Moses and listen to him. And only listen to him. And that's part of the prophecy that Moses gives. And so stay in your lane, Renlund. You've strayed from your lane. He tells us we're forced to go to church. No, you can go to the wilderness. It's okay. Again, he doesn't understand what the sacrament is about, the symbolism from Osiris in the Egyptian documents. He also talks about Nephi slaying Laban, but he doesn't understand it. It's in the Deuteronomic law. That which you falsely accuse in another reveals the penalty for which the false accuser is to be punished with. Laban said, I'm going to kill you for stealing the plates of brass. They didn't steal them. They were falsely accused. So the penalty of death is supposed to be on Laban now, according to the law of Moses. But nobody wants to cover that. So everybody creates their own interpretation. Influenced by false spirits. That was hilarious. And then he talks about the 116 pages. Again, perpetuating the lies. If you're going to use science, you have to use science on history. And the history tells us that Joseph Smith lost his child. They went to the Methodist Church. They were rejected from the Methodist Church. Martin Harris stole the 116 pages. It wasn't for his wife. He may have said that, but No, he was concerned because he's a member of the anti-Masons in Palmyra. But they don't tell you that part of church history because they don't want that context in the history. And neither did Joseph, because he didn't put it in there, did he? So there's a difference between what the 1838 history is saying to us versus the actual history. They're two separate things. Joseph is prophesying in the manner of the Jews. Elder Pino, customs and traditions need to align with the new normal. Again, he's referring to Nelson and his false teachings. And this is the danger of following a false prophet. You do false things that he teaches you, and you preach it to others. Elder Montoya, helping others, which was nice. Brothers, he uses a false dichotomy of positive versus negative. But Book of Mormon. Oh yeah, I noticed they all have the Book of Mormon conform to their teachings and their beliefs rather than letting the Book of Mormon give them their beliefs. That's a disturbing trend. Because Christians do that too. They find a passage in the Bible that is mistranslated, take it out of context to justify their position. And you've seen that with slave ownership and abuse of women and discrimination, etc. And then he said the blatant lie of Jesus lives. It's created by Constantine. He does not live. He's only a 70. He's claiming he's seen the physical, real Jesus when you say he lives. But Christians, and thus the church, have changed the definition of what it means to live. That you don't have to see the physical reality. You just have to have a spiritual witness, and thus he lives. That's so lame. And so Razband, again, he's leading you astray. Talking about the Book of Mormon needing to go to all the world, Nelson making sure that it goes to all the world, among kings, fulfilling prophecy, that it's for this day. You're not kidding. But he's not telling you the truth about why it's for this day. It's because in 1 Nephi chapter 1, we get the starting date of prophecy, 2017. That's why it's this day. But not for his interpretation. And so he again lies about another testament of Jesus Christ. Refers to 3 Nephi 11, not as 8 April 2024, but as the living Jesus went to the Americas long ago and appeared before them, quoting the mistranslation of the Sermon on the Mount. Exactly as recorded in 1769 King James Version of the Bible. And again, bearing witness of Jesus. It's a Jewish book. It's not about Jesus. It's not a literal history. And I noticed he emphasized it is our keystone. Sorry, the keystone is on the doors of the Salt Lake Temple. That's your keystone. Don't try to whitewash it. You do not follow the principles, the good principles of the prophets in the Book of Mormon. You are following Lucifer of the Great and Abominable Church as talked about in the Book of Mormon instead. Again, you're whitewashing the church for us. And so he confirmed it's Jesus' temples. It is not Joseph Smith's Christ temples. Holiness to the Lord is Jesus. It is not the true Christ of Joseph Smith, the man like Moses. And again, he's talking about the gospel being fulfilled and restored. You know, with the Book of Mormon. Okay, that's it. We'll give the title with the Renlund thing, even though we're consolidating them all.